And we are live, episode 32.
Amazing. 32. Whoa.
32.
That's another month.
Oh,
Start of a new
man.
month.
Yeah,
Yes,
man.
true.
It's. Should we break them down in seasons? I think we should break them
And the
down in
seasons?
seasons. Yeah, we should do
The
seasons.
monthly seasons. All right, sure.
Yeah,
sure,
fine.
Sure.
So
No,
we're
definitely.
episode
Yes.
2 of season 2. How about that?
Oh, man. Oh, no. Well, we'll talk about it later. We'll disclose it later. We'll disclose it later. Yes,
we'll talk about it later.
Yes,
we are joined by Dre. Welcome to the show.
Dre.
Thank you for coming on. So tell us a little about yourself, what you do, where you are.
All right. Well, I am a professional artist, and I am based out of Los Angeles, California. And also a part-time model and basketball player.
Very cool.
So that's why I got the Lakers on right now, as you can see.
Hey.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And that's pretty much it. I'm pretty boring, honestly. Yeah.
That's well, good to know.
Fair.
So Lakers fan.
Yes, absolutely.
I do play sometimes basketball. That's mainly because I'm tall, nothing else. It's not like I'm good at it. All I do is just do this.
Right.
My friends
You just
who
block,
are,
blogs, posts.
PG, MJ, 23. Was this number 23? I think it was 23.
Yep, it was 23. That's right.
23.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
23.
The greatest.
The greatest of all time, the GOAT, Michael Jordan. But yeah, no. So I read I went through your Instagram a little bit. You say you are a plus size model, so you are not advertising. You are supporting don't be ashamed of your body kind of
the body positive movement.
Body positive movement. I think I've heard.
There you go.
Yeah.
No, this is good. This is good. No, we're learning.
As good as it seems. So
Yes.
more power to you. From one plus
Thank
size
you.
to another, I guess.
Plus,
So,
I mean, yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, no. So what defines? Okay, I actually want to know what defines a plus size, like person.
Okay. So plus size person is different than plus size model. So in America, a plus size woman is about a size 14 and up. I don't know what that equates to as sizes internationally. But
size 14 in shoes?
No, in clothing, women's clothing.
They're also like 13, 14.
Yes, it's by size.
I mean that's different. Yeah, that's
we're
small, medium, large. Yeah, small, medium, large. That's all we have for dudes.
That's what we have.
Yeah.
Even in my parts of the world, that's what we have, I guess. I'm not sure. I'm not that into women's clothing or anything. So, so yeah, that's all right, I guess. So it's based on what you wear, not your actual dimensions in your life, or things like BMI or.
Yeah, kind of. It is kind of based off your BMI. It's like based off. I don't know where the numbers come from, but it's just based off your measurements, your bust, your waist, and your hip. And but the thing about it is that when you're plus size model, you're actually smaller usually. So most plus size models about 15 to 20 pounds smaller than they're advertised. But I'm not a plus size model no more because I lost about 100 pounds. So now I'm just trying to do normal modeling. But I used to be about 220 pounds. So I don't know that equates to.
I'm just like the rest of the world, so
you're trying
kilogram.
That's like 100.
I know. I'm sorry. I don't know the kilogram.
LBS
that's funny.
kg. That's like 45. Not bad.
Yes.
Not bad.
Yeah.
Okay, here. Let me quickly stream it for all our kilogram viewers out there. That is
thank you.
45 kilograms, which is
I see.
Pretty cool.
Yep, that's pretty
cool.
a lot of weight.
How'd you do it though? Was it like dieting or was it
dieting,
exercising or
absolutely basketball. The program called Weight Watchers. I did that for the first 60 pounds I lost was from using that.
And how long did it take you? Was it like a year?
It's taken me to lose about 60 pounds. It took me about, I would say, 8 months to a year.
8 months.
I would say.
Because I lost. Hold on, let me tell you this in pounds. So that was
go for it. Yeah, because I'm ignorant.
Gotta calculate
so go for
this stuff. Hold on. It's not that you're ignorant. It's just that America is
I was robbed.
It's whatever. So I was 140. I know 114. That's 26. So I lost about 26 kilos. So I lost about 57 pounds purely off of studying.
Wow.
Just of studying.
Whoa, that's stressful. That's not good.
Yes. So I used to weigh 140, 308 pounds, and now I weigh 251.
There you go.
Yeah.
So
that's a lot of studying. Yes.
That's a lot of studying. It was the most stressful year in school. So
that's the hack.
That's the hack.
Kind
of studying.
What program? Oh my
you trust me, you don't want to know. Okay. Medical.
Yes, but back to
medical. Oh, okay.
Medicine and surgery. So.
Oh, surgery. No wonder.
Yes. No wonder. A lot of hours.
Oh man. Oh yeah, I know. Oh, yes. I know. Oof.
Yes.
It is.
All right. Well, tell us straight. I'm curious. So you said you used to be a plus size model, and then now you're doing regular modeling. So what is the difference between the two in your experience?
There's really not so far. There's not really much of a difference. The only thing is when you're trying to do regular like streetwear or fashion modeling, it's much more cutthroat. For when you're in the smaller sizes, they want you to be usually much taller. When you're plus size model, your height can vary a little bit because plus size women vary a lot in size. So it just depends.
Okay, and you said plus size women is different than plus size model, right?
Yeah, but yeah.
Because
what? The same size.
What do you mean? Oh, so wait, so no, like is the standard for weight for modeling, I guess, much
smaller
less than like the standard, much smaller.
Yeah.
And how did that happen? Yeah. Why? I guess are like, I don't know, much skinnier women than the average skinny woman, right? Promoting modeling versus like, you know what I mean? Yeah.
Right. It has to do with photography, actually. It has to do with perspective, and it has to do with proportionings and how the garment like wears on someone's body. It's a lot of like really technical stuff, but it doesn't translate well into our the social part of our society. You know what I mean?
So what do you mean by the technical stuff? Wait, could you explain that a little more? So it's like if you're skinnier, you can wear the clothes better, right? It looks better on you, or
a camera adds about 15 pounds. Well, there's a myth the camera adds about 15 pounds. They say because of just ratios and proportioning, even like just when people take selfies. You know what I'm trying to say? So they look for women who are very for normal modeling, women who are usually very slender or athletic or slim, because when you look at different angles, you know what I mean, they stay consistent. This shape is consistent.
So. I see. Wait, could that not induce anorexic behaviors?
Sorry?
Could that not induce anorexic behaviors?
Oh, it does. It absolutely does. Absolutely.
Yeah? Is that like a big problem in the community?
Absolutely. It's starting to get better though. I'm gonna say now though it's way more body's way more accepted, but it's still a huge problem in our media, in Western media.
Is it in the media, or is it in between the models themselves that pressure each other to lose more weight? Is it like more competitive? Is that why they do it? Or is it, I don't know.
I think it depends on the person's agent, and it depends on what the person is modeling for. If they're modeling for high fashion, if they're doing streetwear, they usually want you to be a little more curvy. So it just kind of depends on your influence, honestly, and your, I guess, mental state, depending, you know.
Okay, so here's a little bit of a personal question. Did you ever find yourself almost falling into that trap of?
Oh yes. Yeah.
Would you like to
absolutely
go deep into what caused and I'd love to know, to be honest, because anorexia is a very very dangerous medical state. It's more of dangerous up here than the actual body health, but the body health still goes through hell because they might suffer from malnourishment and vitamin deficiency, iron deficiency. That leads into hemopathological problems and all that stuff. So
osteoporosis,
thinning of the bone structure or the bone density starts. It's a lot of stuff. So go ahead, dive into your experience. I'd love to hear it.
Okay, well, I struggled with anorexia when I was when I was a teenager. I wasn't in modeling or anything, but I struggled with anorexia as a teenager. And it's like addiction. Eating disorders are a lifelong kind of problem. You're always going to struggle with them. And when I was a plus size model, I struggled with overeating. And so I went to the opposite end of the spectrum. You know what I'm trying to say?
It's
So
like obsession.
it's always kind of
yes.
Yeah.
You gotta. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
So,
interesting. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, it's getting better. It's
Yes.
better now though, but it's always gonna be
All right.
there.
So, and then you just have to like adapt and like, at what point were you like, oh, this is dangerous? I need to like change my like habits.
Let's see. Are you asking this in reference to me being anorexic or me
both.
binge eating?
Yeah, both. Like, what
Okay.
were the tipping points that happened to you? Yeah.
I would say, well, when I was a child, well, you know, I was underage, so my mom obviously was the one to get me not hospitalized, but to get me see a nutritionist and all that, because she was concerned. But when I was overweight, you know, struggled with that. I think the tipping point for me was clothes were getting too expensive. Clothes were getting way too expensive. Like,
wait, is it cheaper if you're skinnier then?
Wait,
it's cheaper when you're skinny.
Oh, yeah, it is?
It's way cheaper.
I didn't know that.
I thought it would be the other way around for some reason.
No, it's absolutely way cheaper to dress when you're smaller. Absolutely.
Whoa.
Is it because you have like more options? Is that why? Because you have more options, or is it just like
more options, less material? Well, think about when you structure a garment, less material. So you know, just
harder to put together.
Business.
That's true.
Yeah, and sometimes that too, specialty made when you're larger, you know, different areas and whatnot.
Yes.
So
it's very true.
Yeah, but
it's
definitely.
Very true. Yeah. But for me, my biggest struggle was mainly finding shoes because I was like a size 13 to size 14. Yeah. So that was my I do have big feet. Unfortunately. Yeah, well, not unfortunately. I really don't care. Shoes look better on big feet. If you think about it, you get more to see.
Yeah, that's true. That's actually true.
So
yeah, why not?
If you're telling me you didn't notice my Yeezys from like a mile away, you're lying. You're lying. Right? So that's how I saw it. I was never bothered with my weight or my height or anything like that because I am freakishly tall as well. So.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
It
wasn't like they tried to body shame me, but it really didn't work because like you can't body shame someone who really doesn't care about their weight. Like I remember my uncles would call me a bodyguard when I stood next to my dad because he was short and I was like huge and tall, and like my friends would call me baghal, which translated to English means I actually don't know what that translates, but it's basically what they call anyone baghal. So they anyone B, and then Baghal. Yeah, you're close.
That's what Ali was.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yo, watch it.
Hey, that's what you just said it yourself.
No,
you don't care either.
I was.
You said you don't care either.
Dude, I was though. I was. It's like what? Yes. This is what I don't get, to be honest. This is what I don't get when we talk about body shaming. I don't get why it's upsetting if we call someone fat. That's like I really don't get, because I was called fat like all my life, and it was just like, thank you for stating the obvious. Like, that was how I took it. Like, yeah, you know. And whenever I called my other friends who were also fat, I used to go like, "You're fat." They used to get upset. I was like, "Okay, fine. You're thin. Do you believe? Do you believe you're thin?"
Right.
Like, no. I'd be like, "Okay, so why are you upset? It is what it is. Just accept it and move on."
That's true.
Yeah.
So yeah, why do people really get upset about if you comment on their weight?
That's true.
Insecurities, probably their own feelings about themselves.
That's true.
That's interesting. So you said you used to do like plus size modeling, right? To me, kind of the idea of modeling is that you're promoting like this lifestyle, like this healthy lifestyle, and you're showing off these clothes and stuff. It seems to me on the like when they have like on Women's Fitness, like a big lady, right? Like a plus size lady. That seems kind of like contradictory to me, right? So yeah, what are your thoughts on that? I don't know. As in, like, should we have people of all sizes on like fitness pages or?
Right. Now, I think it depends on what they're trying to market for fitness. I think fitness should be marketed for everybody, because if you are big and you want to be healthy, you need to start somewhere, you know. So I think it's important for there to be representation of body sizes in fitness. But now, if you're, I mean, it all kind of also depends on like which company, what fashion style exactly, and all that kind of stuff. But for the most part, I think I'm pretty neutral. I think it's a good thing.
That's really good. So
that's fair.
now that we got to know the secrets of modeling and everything,
Yes.
let's dive in.
I'm like, whoa, that's true.
No, we have so much questions, but just to keep with the time and to get into today's topic, which I should warn the listener and the viewers out there, this is a sensitive and heavy topic. But it's something that, as I usually say, has to be said. So we will be saying.
Has to be said. Yes.
Exactly. So today's subject matter is sexual harassment. So if you do, find it a bit sensitive and you don't want to listen to, by all means, click off the video. Now, if you're listening on Spotify, click off right now. Let's dive in.
3, 2, 1.
All right. It's something that we see happening everywhere around the world. Literally, there's nowhere on this earth that this isn't an issue, right? I think we can all agree on this fact. Even to like from the big major countries to the small island countries, from the biggest town to the smallest town, from the biggest city to the smallest city, all over. It happens. It happens, and it happens wherever you go, and it's an issue. So, would you like to define for us what sexual harassment is and what it counts as, and like what is counted as sexual harassment?
Yes, absolutely. So, sexual harassment is any kind of unwanted comments, touching. It's pretty broad. Basically, any kind of unwanted contact from somebody that comes off in a sexual manner is sexual harassment.
Very well put. Very well. There you go.
That's clear. That's pretty well put.
Go ahead.
If I can comment on that. So you say, right, unwanted comments, right? I'm sure touching off, okay, but unwanted comments. I feel like as a dude, right? And as a dude, right? This is good. We're bridging the gap here, right? I feel like it's my responsibility to go up to a girl and make the move. Generally, right? That's because that's our responsibility as a guy. You know what I mean? That's just the role you play. And I don't. Yes.
Right.
So if I'm a dude and I'm making a move on I'm going up to a girl and say, "Hey, by the way, my name is Ali," whatever, right? I guess if I do it like 10 times, let's say, right, 1 or 2 of those times they might not want that kind of interaction, right? So to find that like little boundary between like what is okay, what's not okay, what should a guy like me or Ali do in these situations? Again, I'm trying to say that
I think just listen and just be open-minded and see what the girl has to say. You know, if she says no, then you gotta kind of just respect that.
No means
and then
no.
Just leave it be. Yeah, no means no. I mean, that's pretty much it. I don't know. Yeah.
Interesting.
No, that's fair.
So,
that's very fair. No, and okay. So if I also want to touch up on that in the definition, we said anything you say that is unwanted, that is a little bit sexual, right? So what happens when you do, for example, as Ali said, what happens if, let's say, Ali goes up to a girl, he starts talking to her, right? Things are going smooth, but she misunderstood or she mistook something he said, which was purely innocent, but she decided to, let's say, stretch it out and then like start a witch hunt for our show, which we hope doesn't happen. We are very pro-feminist. We are.
No, definitely. No, we're just trying to talk about these things because these things happen.
Don't cancel us. We're just merely talking about stuff. All right. Take it away.
Yes. Okay. Oh man. In that case, you know what? And I tell my guy friends the same thing too. Like, you have to also be careful on your end, because there are women that are mistrusting and initially, and they're going to take information, and they are going to stretch it sometimes, and because they are dealing with their own usually mental battles, usually prior abuse, prior history of harassment, and they might take it out on you. Essentially, it might feel like that, and you got to be prepared for that too. You got to kind of come correct. So
yeah,
it could happen.
it can
yeah,
happen.
that happens a lot. So
all right, so here's another thing I see, especially in our parts of the world. People don't know how to define, for example, sexual harassment from fully blown like rape, right? So they don't know how to like draw the line between what's what and how to define what they've seen as what, right? So I did have like one time in because I live in Jordan, that's where I study, and that's like I've seen the most of her. Not to say that it is the most country, but where I've experienced it the most was there, right? So I had a friend who once came. He was like, "Oh my God, you should have seen what I've seen today. Girl got raped by this guy." I was like, "In the streets, like in front of everyone?" He was like, "Yeah, he was touching her." I was like, "Wait, that's not rape though. Like, don't get it mixed up. That's not confused, right?" So I was like, "Okay, what did you do?" He was like, "I didn't do anything." I was like, "See, this is where you became a part of the problem and not the solution." So we started talking about it, and we started defining like the different, like what's what. So how would you define like what is that and what is the other?
You mean like what would be rape and what would be just sexual harassment?
Sexual harassment, yeah.
Right. I think rape it comes to what when it comes to like I would say that line is when it starts to become like penetrated.
All
right. You know what I mean?
So
like,
intercourse.
Yeah, intercourse. Yeah, you know what I mean. I would say probably in that case, or but I would say harassment. I would say would be probably a little more like mental and less physical, but it's still physical, but it not necessarily as batterizing, I guess, or as intercourse. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Okay,
it's a really hard line. It's a hard area though.
It is very like it really is because but what people also need to understand is sometimes this leads to the other, right? So sometimes SH does lead to rape. Like if it keeps going and no one stops it, you never know how crazy the person who's doing it is. And here's another point people really do need to understand: it goes both ways. It doesn't always have to be guy doing it to a girl. It can be guy to a guy, girl to a guy, girl to a girl, whichever way around. Like it doesn't know a specific gender, right?
No, that's true. Absolutely.
Yeah. So,
yeah, why do you think people do that? Yeah, why do you think people like? If you can take like from why would a guy want to harass a woman? I don't know, just from your perspective there.
I think for men to you're asking like where did they get the idea to do something like that?
I guess I guess I just want to understand, like I know from from a man's perspective, right? I'm a dude. I'm not really harassing women, right? So I just want to understand.
I'm just gonna cut you off for a second. By the way, if you want to smoke on the show, you're more than welcome to. Like it's not a
okay.
Yeah, you're more than welcome to. Yeah. So
yeah, I had the ashtray over here. That's why I was.
No,
my
it's
arm
fine.
was
You're be as comfortable as you can. You're more than welcome to do whatever you want. So
thank you, mashallah,
awesome.
mashallah,
yeah.
Mashallah,
mashallah, mashallah.
yeah. So back to it. So I just don't know, like from a woman's experience, what kind of men are like good men and what kind of men are bad men? How about that?
I think I would say sometimes good and bad, it has to do with levels of mental disturbance, and it has to do with their upbringing, and if they've been abused or maybe they've witnessed this kind of abuse and they just think it's normalized. Their culture has a lot to do with it too, a lot to do with it, and all that. Hold on 1 second.
That's funny.
That's
not funny actually. That's not. I was just thinking about you comment on that. I don't know if you know, because of the whole Syrian refugee crisis that happened, a bunch of Syrians fled all over the globe. Some of them went into Europe, right? And there was this crisis that was happening in Sweden or Switzerland. I don't remember.
Denmark.
In Denmark? Okay, I don't know if you can tell me more about it, but a bunch of women were getting raped by these. So what was going on there? I don't know if you know about this.
Yes, I do know about this actually. So basically, and there was an influx of rape and sexual harassment, sexual battery cases in Denmark after the influx of refugees, and they had it became such a problem, apparently, that they had to give like mandatory classes and whatnot for like Syrian men and whatnot to culture classes on how to approach women, especially if they think a woman's being haram, like how not to approach them, not how to basically.
No, what do you mean? Yeah. So what goes on in those classes?
Like,
what is the class?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Like basically like westernization. They're westernization type classes is what I'm trying to say in a way. Like they're trying to get
I think they're trying to more like westernize them, basically.
Right. To so basically explain to the
so that they can adapt to their new place where they are now, right? So
absolutely.
So what was your question, Ali? I forgot. I was just searching.
No, yes, I was I was just asking about that situation. Like why is being Western more pro women and is being non-Western less pro women? Is that
no, that's not
Eastern cultures.
Where I'm trying to say, where I'm trying to clarify with that, because I'm not trying to say westernization is better. I'm just saying because here's the thing. We know in the Middle East there's different beauty standards and different levels of modesty. And I used to be in a hijabi and even in a niqabi for a while. So I can kind of speak on this too, is that I understand culturally, sometimes we think we think we know how women's supposed to be and how they're supposed to dress and kind of live. And in Denmark and Scandinavian countries, it's very much more
open,
liberal, open, and Western, and westernized, and it's a non-religious country. So we keep that in mind too. So then you get people coming from Syria. It's going to be culturally totally different.
So it's like a culture shock.
Right, and honestly, a lot of the cases with the rapes, I'm not discrediting any of them, but a part of me always wondered how much of that was kind of xenophobia, a little bit. You know what I'm trying to say?
But to the Syrians, or to the xenophobia is race discrimination against people not from your country, basically.
Yeah. Oh. And so that's what I'm trying to say about the westernization. So I feel like it's a really like a hard subject, because it's like I'm for any kind of sexual harassment, but I'm also not for telling people culturally how they're supposed to view women. You know what I mean, when they come.
But that's the opposite. Wait, Dre, that's the opposite, right? Because like you're trying to say that, hey, we need to be pro women, we need to respect women, we need to have all these cultural values. But at the same time, you also say, I can't tell people how they want to behave with in this perspective, right? So I mean, it's tricky. I know it's very tricky, right? Like I don't want to tell people what to do, but at the same time, listen to me and stop. Like it's very
tricky. Absolutely, right. So it's a tricky subject, but that's I don't know too much more about it, but that's just the basic level of what I know about that.
Where's I feel like being a woman has progressed from like the 60s onwards, right? Like it's been like now women are more equal, have more equal access, right?
Yeah. I would say it's getting better. Yeah, it's better in certain ways, but not fully there. But it's getting better.
So what would you say is the line from like now to fully there? What is the fully there part that you're not there yet?
I think I can't speak for the rest of the world, obviously, but I would say in America,
in your opinion, let's say.
And in my opinion, I think justice systems have to be more honest about rape and sexual harassment, and listening to witnesses, and doing more, basically providing more justice to the victims of the crimes. Because where I live, there's thousands and hundreds of thousands of rape cases that haven't been solved.
Really? Wait.
Yes.
So what happened? They just go to court and no one solves them? Is it
they don't even go to court?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I think there's no encouragement towards speaking up hence
No,
the
not
Me
really.
Too movement.
Mm-hmm.
I supported it,
Mm-hmm.
supported it until it got to a point where people are just randomly coming out and saying, "Yeah, so and so raped me too," and it's
Right.
starting to get a little suspicious and a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
like I'm not discrediting the people that actually did
Mm-hmm.
like go through that,
Right.
but I'm just saying people who haven't had anything to do with this subject matter are not trying to. They're starting to ruin it on the people that finally got the courage to come out and say, "Yo, listen, people, I have been raped."
Mm-hmm.
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 So it's starting to like this is the worst thing that can happen to such a good movement is when you have these, well, they're mostly women. I don't want to say they're women, but if we're looking at stats and
Mm-hmm.
stuff, they're mostly women that are doing this.
Right.
They're coming out, and it became hard to like say, like, to see who is telling the
Mm-hmm.
truth and who is basically just taking advantage of this movement, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
like, what do you think we can do to make it better? Like,
Mm-hmm.
just to solve this issue?
Right. Oof.
I,
That's such a good question, because yeah, marginalization is a big problem with these kind of cases and with the Me Too
Mm,
movement. And marginalization basically is you know p- belittling other people's experiences, for the greater good of like a cause or a movement, if you know what I
mm-hmm.
mean.
Mm-hmm.
um mm,
Interesting.
Sorry. And
yeah, it's cool.
right. And so I think a lot of women, because and men, obviously, because men are victims of this too. I would just say a lot of people who have experienced sexual abuse or harassment, they didn't speak up in a time where they felt like they needed to or should have. And then yeah, when there is a spotlight, they're gonna run to it. If they're seeking that kind of justice that they didn't never got. So I think it all goes back to, like I said, about people getting the right kind of justice
Uh-huh.
and
That's true.
actually being heard
It's
out.
it's interesting you say, yeah, because it's very interesting what happened. Because what happened with the feminist Me Too movement was
Hmm.
believe all women, right? That was kind of the narrative that
Right, right,
all women's voices need to be heard.
right.
The
All
problem
right, right, right,
the
right.
problem I think with that is just as if you're saying believe all men, right? There are evil men and there are good men, and there are good women, honest women,
Yep.
great women, and there are evil women. Just that's
Hmm.
how things go, right? And so I mean it's tricky because I wouldn't say those women like kind of smear the movement, because I feel like those women are like less than like
The majority.
the honest,
They're
yeah,
not
the
the.
majority of women that are being honest and like speaking up about their experiences.
Hmm.
um I don't know if you heard about what happened with Aziz Ansari. There's a little bit of an older case, but Aziz Ansari, he's
Hmm.
this stand-up comedian, and
Hmm.
basically what happened with him is that he had a date with this woman, and then he went back to her place, and then I guess there was like some miscommunication. She did not, well, he was trying to like advance on her. She didn't say no, right? She just
Hmm.
said she just was uncomfortable, I
Yes.
guess. And then
Hmm.
the next day, or like a week later, she released this article on babe.com saying, Aziz Ansari is a predator because he advanced on me without like, I guess, without any like, without reading my cues here, without reading my
Hmm.
like social cues, right?
Right.
But she didn't say no. So yeah, what are your thoughts on like that situation? Is it like unfair to other women who like say no and like mean
Hmm.
when they say no, or is it hard for women to say no in the first place? I don't know. I'm not a woman.
Right.
Hmm.
Well, I think there's two things, right, that
Hmm.
we're dealing with in this situation. We're dealing with actual rape,
Hmm.
and we're also dealing with regretful sex
Hmm.
we just didn't, we look back and we're like, dang, I wish I didn't do that.
Hmm.
As
And there is
Blizzard
a difference.
Entertainment would
There's
say, you think you wanted it, but you didn't.
You didn't want
right.
it.
Right?
Yeah.
But then right in between those two, there's there's that, like you just said, like that manipulation of
Hmm.
um basically that is kind of sexual abuse, but it's kind of a mental mixed with the physical, but it's it's really hard. It's kind of knowing what you're dealing with.
I mean, with such an act, I find it hard to be manipulated. Well, not manipulated, but like, how do I say this without annoying anyone or pissing anyone off? Okay, perfect. I find it hard when like you're in the act, right? You agreed to it, and both parties consented, right?
Right.
But like, is there any cases where like midway through they just go like, you know what? No, I'm not into it. Like, is that allowed, or is that okay?
Yeah.
Does that happen?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, if you're not digging the sex and you don't want it to stop, you should stop. Now, if he continues or she, whoever, if they continue and you say no, then that becomes rape.
That's
Absolutely.
not right. That's not right.
But
that's understandable.
But don't you like? No, it's not. But it's just that I'm trying to tread lightly with this.
Yes.
Like I'm trying to.
You're doing a great job. You're doing a great job, by the way.
I'm trying to like make like understand a certain point of view without sounding like a misogynist or an anti-feminist.
No, you're good.
All right.
You're
So you're saying midway through, if you say no and someone continues, that's seen as rape, right? But isn't there a way for the person who is saying no, like, for example, let's say me and someone, okay, are in the act, okay, and she pre-planned that she was going to do it but say no, right? She goes, she sues me for rape, right? There's no way to disprove there's no way to disprove that she had a malicious intent from the start, right?
Right. Oh, yes.
So is like this is where the lines are getting harder to draw around, and it doesn't become straight. It becomes more of a squiggly line saying this is right, this is wrong. So I really want to hear your comment and perspective on that aspect of things.
Okay, so if you're talking about, so the situation you're just talking about, you're saying a woman, you guys had fully consensual sex, and then she goes and she says you raped me.
Yeah.
Is that what you're trying to figure?
No. So she from the start before the act.
That's it.
Basically that is it.
Yeah,
but
that's it. Yes.
My like what.
She's not gonna do a trick on you, like trick. By the way, no, now you know what I mean. It's like I get what you're trying to mean, like after the fact.
Yeah,
she does it maliciously.
Yeah,
for money.
Goes like, oh, I said
or for
no.
Political influence.
Yeah.
Right. Yes.
Right. So if it's for malicious, and this is all for malicious intent. She cries rape, basically. So in that case, I feel like we're dealing more with sociopathy, and we're dealing with something that's a really big problem with our crime system still in America, and that still goes back to the justice system, because we still don't know how to really fully, try or incriminate psycho and sociopaths. No, and a woman crying rape like that at that level, that's sociopathy. I'm sorry, that's evil.
No, 100%. I mean, just evil, just pure.
Not just women, even if it was done by a male or like by
anybody, any human.
Because again, people who are listening or people who are viewing our discussions, it will always go both ways. So it doesn't have to be always just from one. We might say in one way, but we do mean both ways. Just to keep it clear with the audience, right? So back to what we were saying. So there are like that's also very dangerous when we talk about the whole cry wolf situation. The boy cried wolf, right? You keep doing it, and then one day it's gonna actually happen, and they're not gonna believe you, right? And I do think that there should be, and I really believe in this, right? So I really believe that there should be a punishment for false allegations. I don't know what like.
And I mean, I think those should also be as strict if someone gets convicted and going to jail. You know what I mean? If a guy gets convicted and goes to jail for 30 years for this, the woman who calls, a false flag should do that.
Yeah.
Now, add into what you said, I think another problem with, Aziz Ansari's story, whatever, some women manipulate because of the power dynamic, right? So a problem here that I'm just trying to understand myself is, we're taught as men that women don't want a handsome man; they want a man with something in his hands, basically. So like a woman wants a guy who's successful, kinda, that is in a position of power, kinda, right? That's kind of, I don't know, right? Intriguing to a woman. It's interesting that this guy is competent and he's smart and whatever. But on the other coin of that, when we hear a lot about these power dynamics, and the idea is that women, like if let's say, for example, like let's say a woman slept with a man to get a role for a movie, right? Something like that, right? I'm not right. Hey, I know I'm a film director, I wouldn't do stuff like that. That's not okay on my end, right? But it's like what to do? Should people in working relationships with power just avoid it altogether? Is there some kind of consensual, like, in between? I don't know what your take on it, because this is huge nowadays, right? Just being of a different power than someone you're working with, just that could like put you in big trouble.
Right. Well, I think we're told when we get hired onto jobs initially, we're always told that don't have sex with your coworkers. You know, don't do where you eat, basically, so to speak. So
don't shit where you eat.
Yeah, I'm being halal with it, but you know, just basically don't do that. So I think common sense wise, like, people shouldn't be doing that. But I think but obviously when you get to that level of money and that level of power, it's going to happen. I think people should just protect themselves and just be careful. I don't really know. I can't really relate to those situations, honestly, because
you know, it is hard. It is hard to talk about. No, and I understand. And we are bringing up situations never thought of by normal people before. We aren't.
I don't have money like that.
Like me, yes, that's true.
Yeah, me. Like, also, I should mention, me and Ali are really not normal. We really do think about the different, like, every single possible angle of a certain situation, right?
Yes.
So so absolutely. We do like to do that. So
speaking of different angles, I feel like this is all first world problems. This entire conversation just been like how, like, United States or like Western countries, how they're dealing with the, like, this fine line. I feel like if a woman in the United States was sent to like China, where they have, like, I don't know, like, women still enslaved, or they go to like places in Africa where they're like doing women, you know, mutilation, all those like, you know, feminist people will just be like, okay, I'm good where I'm at right now. You know what I mean? With what I have, right? I guess so. Right. So I don't know what are the bigger issues around the world that's happening with women. I feel like America or the Western world isn't like the priority, even though they get all the priority. I bet it's not the truth, right?
Right. Well, let's see. I think if we're talking about issues in general, I think rape is rampant, still really bad all over the world, especially in India right now, and other places. In India? But but
no, most of the stories I've heard were also from India. Would you like to dive in? No, we're not saying that India is full of rapists. Don't go to India. No, we're just saying that, again, most of what we hear do sometimes come from a specific country. Not saying that this country is bad. We're just saying it's prevalent there, right?
Absolutely.
Just like, for example, the coronavirus. Yes, it did start in China, but it's not a Chinese virus. It's a virus.
Absolutely
right?
Not. Right.
So it's the same concept right here. So yeah, please take it away.
Right. So I know in India there's a huge problem with rapes. I like I said, I know blanket information about this topic, but I know that globally, like, there's not even enough media to cover it, of how bad it is. And I don't know. I'm trying to think how to explain it, but no, it's just a big problem internationally. But yeah, especially they're condensed. I think also because of the area. Like, amount of people and whatnot, population.
And like, I guess it's like they're more religious there, maybe culturally women and men are more separated. Arranged marriages are a big thing, right? So people aren't having like natural, maybe like
interaction with the opposite sex. I think
absolutely.
that can all add up.
Oh, right.
All these things.
I do have little information. So I read a study a long time ago that the average age of losing your virginity in Brazil is 14. In India, it's 18.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to take that into consideration, right? So basically, people are well, in 18 years old in America, that's considered an adult.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, if a lot of people are having these experiences, quote unquote, at that age, then you know what I'm trying to say.
Mm-hmm.
What's going on? Why is it so much higher than certain places? You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, it's because of the culture.
Yeah,
It is
Yeah,
because
because
of
the
culture.
culture is
It
anti-sex.
shows
Yes.
culture.
If we're gonna think about it, for
It very
example,
shows
in the
that.
Middle East, it would be in the 20s.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like
Honestly,
right after
probably.
marriage, right? Because we
Mhm.
don't have
Yes.
premarital
Yeah.
intercourse.
No.
It's right after
Mm-mm.
marriage. So uh I think yeah, that these factors could cause this certain, but again, it like here's where I really don't like, this is where it starts to hurt in the chest when I hear people saying, oh,
Mhm.
she wasn't wearing the appropriate clothing, she wasn't, she was doing this, she was
Right.
walking that way, she was this. I don't agree with at all. Like, this really annoys me when I hear people saying this. Like, it's just like,
Yeah, like justification
yeah, like
of
you're
the act.
justifying a disgusting act. You are
Right.
justifying something that, first of all, if we're going to talk about it religiously, banned in all
Mhm.
religion, right? Like, it's not okay in any of the religions. If we're talking about it,
Mhm.
like, logically, you just assaulted another human in a way that's very,
Mhm.
very embarrassing and like defaming, right?
Yes.
If you want to talk like it's wrong in every aspect of life, right? So
Absolutely.
like, to be like, I think it's called a rape apologist, correct me if I'm wrong,
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yes. Very apologist.
Yeah,
Yes.
so like, I don't agree with that. But on the other hand, see, this is why I don't
Mhm.
talk about the subject, because you can always go both ways just to try and balance the
Absolutely.
whole system, right? And the other hand, like, if we think about it, because I do study like this kind of stuff. I do study medicine.
Mhm.
So humans learn instincts before they learn culture and all those stuff, right? So that's how a baby
Mhm.
knows when
That's
to
true. We're
feed.
animals.
We
Mm-hmm.
are, we are,
That was.
we are very like animalistic in certain things. That's how,
Mhm.
like, there's, like, we have something we call nature and nurture in medicine when we
Mhm.
talk about babies. So nature is, the baby knows where to get its milk from, right? You don't teach it. You don't go like, right here. No, no, no. Once you
Right.
like, it's done. It happens. It knows that when you put something in its mouth, it's supposed to eat and swallow, right? It knows
Right.
that it's supposed to breathe. You can't teach a baby breathing, right? So
Right.
it's the same with adult males and adult females, right? We have some stuff that are based on instinct. So
Right.
if you have, for example, a woman or a man, but usually happens to women, so we'll just, for the sake of the argument, stick with women, goes out
Mhm.
and, like, for example, goes out naked,
Right.
right?
Right. Uh-huh.
It can trigger a psychological
Trigger.
aspect in the
Animal.
male brain that becomes animalistic and, just bolts for, which is
Yes.
hard
Mhm.
to say,
It's
and
hard to
people
say.
will get
Right.
angry
We're
at
men.
this,
We're tempted.
but
Yes, but it's true.
Right.
It's
it
true.
is
I mean, it
fighting
is
Yeah.
true.
temptations,
I
right?
get it.
So
Yes. Uh-huh.
I
so
get it.
this is like, it's now, with talking about all this stuff, we've entered a juggling state of conversation, right?
Hey, but
So
this, but
you
that.
want this,
Yes,
but
it's true.
that, but this, but that, and then it goes into he said, she said, he said, she said, and then it goes into, right? So what,
Right.
I want to hear your opinion in this point of view,
Yes,
which,
Dre, and we're also. I mean, I will say we're an hour in. This has been going so fast. We talked
oh
about a lot of
wow,
stuff.
yeah,
Yeah.
this
Yes,
is,
yeah. So
yeah,
great.
it
This is
is. So
awesome. No, thank you so much for this. So
yeah,
yeah,
Yay.
okay,
give us your little closing monologue
yeah,
on
let's
Yeah.
do that.
what. Yes, yes. Please listen. What could you
Yes.
teach us young men right now about the world around us and what we should do in regards to women?
Yes.
I don't know.
I, okay. I think it's important that we start normalizing. I think if we want to talk about for men, how to better, It's just being open-minded, listening, and being how do I say this? Normalizing women's bodies, normalizing women's feelings and perspectives, and their consent. And I think when we start there, we have open conversations, and we stop hurting each other. We end these cycles of abuse. So that's pretty much it.
No, that's true. That's amazing.
True. Yeah.
That's
Okay.
true. Listen,
My closing monologue is rape is bad. No means
Yes.
no.
Don't do it.
There's
Don't
consent exists. All the basic stuff you should already know, so you don't have any excuse to do it if you decide to do it. If you are or have this evil experience, do not be afraid to speak out. You have the support of the A2 show. But innocent until proven guilty. Dre, would you like to shout out anything? Eddie's reaction. I knew that was his reaction. I knew it. Oh, no.
Anything you want to say, Dre?
Anything you want to say? Anything you want to shout out? Anything you want to let the people know?
Shout out.
Yeah.
Let's see. Follow me at hashtag at Angry Dre with a 3, not an E.
Link in the description to her Instagram page, right?
Yes, check me out there.
And else?
You guys are really, really, really dope.
Thank
I had a really great time.
Thank you. We
Awesome.
had an amazing time with you. I enjoyed talking about this conversation. I think this is the first time I really enjoyed discussing it.
Because we talk about sexual harassment.
No. You know why?
Topic.
Let me tell you why. Usually other topics, it's like, yeah, you can say whatever you want, right? There's no restraint. But this really tests a person's intellect, right? You need to know how to say things, how to tread around the minds in the minefield, right? So these are the conversations that I feel boost a person's intellect to a certain point, right? And at the end of the day, we learned some stuff, right? And you learn anything new? Because I learned a lot of stuff that were new for me, and I thank you for that, right?
Thank you, Dre.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. Blueberry Dye, Blueberry Dye should be coming out like soon. In 2 or 3 days. I need to talk to your brother about that because I finally have money in my card. Let's go. Also, July 4th, Two Cats. It's a movie Ali produced and directed and filmed. It's really good. I watch it too. Two Cats.
Meow.
Pretty much. Indeed. Yeah. Anyway,
amazing.
I don't know if you watch any of the other episodes. This is how we sign out, right? We salute, cover the cam, and peace, people.